Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So are you trying to find the new little DIY, little crafty project that you can do with your plant collection? I think I may have one that's a bit fun for you today, mainly because this has arrived a couple of days ago, and trust me, I'm not a patient person, so I've had to hold off, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to do a video and I want to do it with all of you so we can kind of all experience it together. This was a bit of a concept. I've seen some other people have done similar things, but I'll do my own little twist on it. And essentially, it is a water bubbler propagator, but more of a kind of slicker view, more like an aeroponic thing, not quite the same thing, because I think the mechanics and how those work are slightly different, but I did mention this in my gifting video that you could potentially do this as a DIY. And I thought, we're coming up to the holiday season. It's usually a time of the year where a lot of people are going to be kind of home and relaxing and maybe trying to find some projects to do over the Christmas period, something that's fun and something that's a bit more interesting. So I thought, let's maybe attempt something like this. So we'll start up here. I think I might bring you down to table level because I'm going to need to be able to, you'll see why. Let's move lower. Right, so welcome to the reality of my Sunday morning kind of plant chores and everything else. Iced coffee is everything. And yes, I am fully aware that today where I'm filming, it's -5 degrees outside and it's not that warm in here and I'm still on the iced coffee. There's usually a point of about a couple of weeks in February when it's arctically cold, where I'm just like, oh no, I need some warm coffee. But yeah. Sippy sip. So, right, let's talk about everything that I've got in front of me. And this should be a relatively easy bit of DIY, as long as you've got some basic DIY tools, basically. So let's talk about what I've got in front of me. So what I have got, and all of these items are from Amazon, and I'll link them down below, basically, if you want to have a look for yourselves, but you can get them from a lot of different places. So what I've got is a bubbler or an air stone kind of aquarium pump. And this one's a UFO air pump. Oh. Instructions. The little device, I think it was meant to be relatively quiet, and it's not massively huge, and I'll bring it in a bit closer. You guys are quite far away, but you can see kind of what it looks like there, and it's got a plug that attaches to the electricity. For the people that are worried about kind of energy consumption, I think this one, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's kind of 2.5 watts. So it doesn't actually use an awful lot of energy. So it's obviously not the same as not using any energy, but it's not going to cost you the earth at the moment, at least, I don't think. So that's always a plus, because I know that it's a struggle for a lot of us at the moment. And the other bits are the bits that come in with airstone. And for people that haven't got aquariums and might not know what this looks like, I will show you. And it will make more sense when we put it all together. I've never had to put one of these things together, so you will learn as well as I will learn on this. I hope for the best. So there are some clips that you can see that you are going to put the pipes through. I think this is a valve for like the air pressure that's going to be going in. And I don't know whether or not you noticed on the bubbler, but I'll bring it in a bit closer. Can you see there is two kind of holes there? This is a double bubbler, so essentially you have two pipes that will go in and it will bubble away. Now, let me bring in, I think maybe these are the valves. There's some kind of T-junction-y kind of thing, and I'm pretty sure that everybody that has got aquariums now is probably screaming at their screens. I don't know, bear with me, please. But yes, so that is everything. And these are the air stones. So the air stones look a bit like that. To me, it kind of is reminiscent of kind of pumice stones, I would imagine. And all that happens is you would connect this in a very basic way. You would connect one end of this to this flexible pipe. And I'll show you what the flexible pipe looks like. So it's kind of really flexible piping. And then in a very basic manner. And then you would use the other end to go into the pump essentially itself, and this will pump air through that and it will create air in the actual propagation bin. Now, let me move most of this stuff away and let me talk to you about some of the other materials that we're going to be using for this kind of DIY propagator essentially. The other kind of main ingredient really will be net pots. So I will show you, these are small net pots whilst I drop everything down because apparently cannot hold things this time on a Sunday morning. So these are relatively small net pots and you'll understand why with these in just a second. And then essentially what is a prop box, I got one that was fully black and opaque. I'm pretty sure I think this was made entirely from recycled plastic. So that's always a good thing if you can do it, especially because hopefully it's going to be getting quite a bit of use. So the reason why I got it opaque is there's going to be water. Essentially, this is a glorified way of water propagating some of your plants. The air stones will release some of that oxygen in the water and it does help. Apparently, and this is, I've seen from a lot of people and they've had good successes with this, even people that are growing cuttings straight into their aquariums. So the reason why I got it as opaque is it will reduce the potential for algae. And also I find that roots, maybe this is just kind of in my head, but I found that if you've got a fully dark environment and you're water propagating, the roots tend to grow a bit faster rather than in clear vessels, which I would imagine would make sense because the roots are used to being underground. Whether or not there's any validity to this, I don't know. But so what will happen with this lid, and this is the bit where I'm saying you might need a bit of DIY knowledge essentially, is you're going to need to find ways to actually, in essence, drill holes to put these, so you can sit these net pots comfortably within the lid so that they're also touching the water essentially. So what I have, or what I had to buy because I didn't unfortunately have the right size, it didn't cost me that much money, was a bit of hole drill essentially, which I'll put onto Black & Decker. You guys all get to experience me bring out power tools. Oh, I love a good DIY. The people that know me in my personal life know that I do love a good DIY. I'm not great at DIY, but I do enjoy some DIY. And I actually did not plan ahead for this to be wearing the same color as this. Happy coincidence, love a good yellow. And you will basically drill holes up the top of the lid at different intervals so you can slot these net pots in. But let's get going actually. And some of these sections I might fast forward quite a bit because you're going to be seeing me like drilling and things like that. But let's see how this goes. This will be a new experience for all of us. Oh, the sound of a drill. Please be careful, obviously. Hopefully you know what you're doing if you're going to be using a drill. For instance, if you don't have a drill, another way that you could do it is kind of burn some holes in the shape. That might take you a bit longer, but burn some holes in the shape of the net pots, and then with a knife or a pair of scissors, as long as you've not left a lot of space between the holes, you can actually just cut between them. Also, if you don't have a hole drill, you can just do that with a regular drill and just do holes and kind of outline the kind of diameter of the net pot, but obviously measure what the diameter is of the net pot. And you need to be careful with how you do that because a lot of the times you need to make sure that you can see there's a lip on the net pot. You want to be measuring that inner diameter basically. So let's get cracking. Did that work? Oh, things are gonna get messy. Is that too big? Oh, that's too big. Okay. Don't do as I do because, as I was saying, make sure that you've got the right size. I went for one that was a bit too big. So let's go for round two with a slightly smaller one and let's see if we can make it work. It's really useful. Oh, that is much better. Come on. Well, that was a lot messier than I thought it was going to be. Possibly the yellow wasn't a good idea. But you might be able to see, let me see if I can open it really quickly. And it depends on how fancy you want to get with it as well. But you can see there is some of the like essentially when the drilling was happening. So you might want to just deal with that. You can always go through and get a file and just file that back. I'm just going to deal with it really quickly and come back. Okay, learn from me, so don't do the me. If you are going to be using the hole drill, essentially, as you're going around, plastic does get quite warm and it creates these little lips that can be quite difficult to get off. To be fair, I just found I vacated the area. With the magic of editing, you probably didn't see any of this. And I took some pliers and I pulled off. It came off in a stringy bit. That's fine. It's just because you want this to be as flush as you can possibly get it. And that is relatively flush for me. So I am happy with how that came off. I don't have, in an ideal world, it would have been a bit lower still for some in between the hole drill that was larger and the smaller one. And you can see here is the larger one. And let me just give you an example of what you don't want to happen is the whole thing goes through. I think I've got less than 12 and I've done 12 holes, so that should be fine. I'll see what I can put there. There are ways around this. You don't need a net pot. And actually this might be a really good place for you to try reusing some of the polystyrene that you get in some of the packaging, because you can cut it to that size. You'll see why. You kind of need it to hold the cutting itself. So let's move on to doing the next bit, which is to connect all the airstone and everything so that machine is ready to go. Right, so I got all excited and thinking that all the drilling was done, but then I remembered one very substantial thing. I need to get the air stones in here and I need to get the pipes in. So we'll be putting 2 drill holes on either side here just so I can get the piping in, because I want to get the air stones kind of in the middle. So one kind of there underneath these bits and there basically. So it all makes sense. So into the fold we go again. And this time around, I will remember to take plastic bits off. And before you do anything else, always check that that will actually fit what you need it to fit. Like butter. I like it. It is exactly the right size. So this is perfect. One more on the other side, and we should be good to start putting together the airstone. Yep. All right, let's put together the airstone. Do one, and then I'll repeat on the other one. Just because I refuse to be that one person that doesn't read the manual, I'm going to read the manual really quickly and start on the first one. Okay, so I have figured out what I need to do. I need to get this through the lid first. So I'm going to have to thread this through. Oh, there's never enough space when you're trying to do these things, or maybe it's just me. Okay, so that is now in. And let me get the airstone in as well. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. I've threaded it through. And then what I'll do, and I'll show you with the camera as well in just a second. And it does come with some really handy dandy little suction cups, which is kind of useful. Just so we can attach it down below. So you should be able to see there, and it's got a little suction cup, so it's attached kind of in the middle of the propagation tank. Pull it through, close it up, and essentially rinse and repeat on the other side as well. So let me do that really quickly. And just make sure that you've got a bit of wiggle room, because at some point or another you're going to want to move the lid. Okay, so after a lot of finagling, I don't know if you might be able to see, there is, I think that is flow valve, and as is that one or something like that. I will add it at the top there, and I will take this bit off. And that is less planty so far, but a few promised plants are coming. This is just taking a bit of time. I'm really filming and it's been 50 minutes so far. I'm assuming you won't be seeing a 50-minute video and there'll probably be some heavy editing on this. If there's something that you want to spend some time doing, this is a cool little maybe weekend task or holiday task, as I said. Okay, so everything is now connected. It would just need to be plugged in. Let me show you what I'm going to do with the cuttings. Okay, and we're back, and there's more things basically. So I've got some cuttings, and I will probably do a follow-up on this video to see how things are going. I might just kind of take some clips throughout the process and see how quickly I'm starting to see some roots on some of these things. But let me explain how it's going to work. So I've got a couple of options in here, and I probably will add more before I do the update, and I can kind of give you the update then. It's just I'm trying to figure out now what else I can shove in here basically. But I do have a variety of different things. So I have got the Piper sylvaticum, which can be quite challenging to propagate. I know it does do quite well in water, so I will try that. Trusty golden pothos, see how that one goes. And I have got Hoya australis, if I'm not mistaken, here to see how a Hoya will do. And then I've also got Malay gold philodendron. And I'll probably add a few more, as I've mentioned, and we'll see how they all get along and if this does mean that they root a bit faster. And I will show you now how this is going to get done. And this is the other bit of materials that you'll need, and it is, some people might be surprised, leca. So what you'd want to do is you want to add in the leca, and essentially it's mainly so it can hold the cutting upright. So let me see if I can get the pothos cutting so you can see what it's going to look like. And I'll pop that in. I put some leca at the very bottom. You also need to be careful on how you're going to do this. So I might actually put the cutting straight in and then put the leca around it, because I'm going to have my water level quite high in order for the cutting to actually be submerged in the water. Obviously, I think with the aero propagator, you don't actually need to be submerged in water, because I think it sprays water from a reservoir down below. But because this is going to be functioning on the bubbler kind of effect, I kind of need these cuttings to have as much of the node to have as much of a touch point with the water, and then you would pop that in there, and essentially this tank will have water to quite a high level, I will be honest, and see how it goes from there. But essentially, you would then fill this in. The other thing that you need to remember is if I lift the lid up as well, and you can see again, if you don't have an awful lot of space between each one of the holes, you're going to be kind of limited in terms of what cuttings you're going to be able to do. So you might need to be a bit smart on how you're going to add in your cuttings. So for instance, this one, which is the Piper sylvaticum, you can see it's got 3 leaves, but I'm going to struggle to get it in there. So what's going to happen is, oops, bottom leaf has gone. And then I would just put that in, the node is at the bottom, and as I did with the pothos, I will add in the leca and just fill around it, just so it basically has something to hold the cutting into place. Now, the other bit that I alluded to at the earlier part of the video that you could use instead of leca or instead of net pots, if you want to do some recycling potentially as well, is your styrofoam that you might be getting, not styrofoam, but polystyrene. You can kind of cut it into the shape of the round and cut a hole, put the cutting through that, and that will float on top of the water. You could potentially get rid of the lid entirely at that point and just have one piece of styrofoam with some holes in it and hold it in. I'm pretty sure people have been doing that for years. So you can kind of see, you'd go around and you'd put all the different propagates in, and I'm going to move that away so you can see it. So it's right there. And after you do all this, you can then fill it in with water, switch on the bubbler, and I'll show you clips hopefully at this stage of it on. And pretty much at that point, you are done. And make sure that they're getting a decent level of light and let them be. After that, it's just essentially like a water propagation. I know this is a very fancy way of water propagating, but I have heard really, really good kind of feedback from people when they've used bubblers in water propagation in terms of how quickly things start rooting out. And it is winter, and I know we're not all supposed to be propagating right now, and the weather's not the right time. But guess when everybody does do some propagations? Winter, because there's not an awful lot going on with our plants. Most of them, especially this winter when we're going to be paying a lot of money for energy bills and stuff like that, they're probably all quite dormant at this point. So getting something like propagation going makes you feel like you're doing something and something might be happening soon. So yeah, and for the people that are like me and have zero patience, you're just like, oh, how's it done? Oh, how's it done? Oh, how's it done? And this potentially, based on what I'm hearing, is one that you might actually start to see some action before everything else would normally do if you were just doing a standard water propagation. We shall see. As I said, I'll see if I can test this and do videos. I'll take videos at different intervals, and then maybe I'll do an update video where I'll talk you through my experiences at all those different stages. But yeah, let me continue doing this and I will probably let you go. This is probably already quite a long video, even with me editing it down. But hopefully you've enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sure you probably already put stuff down in the comments down below. And let's see what happens with this. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.